us all please welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Stuart Mealor.
I'm going to take a photograph of you. I saw Bono do that at a U2 concert, and I thought, what a terrific idea. Why should all the photographs be this way? That is taken from the Moodle Dotnet site this week. That's the total number of people registered on Moodle sites around the world. Does that say 124 million? Wow. Technology. I was struck by the fact that when I walked on the stage today, despite the fact that I have every piece of technology you can imagine, my notebook, my smartphone, my iPad, as an educator, as a speaker, I still walked on stage with a piece of paper with my notes on. So maybe we're not replacing old technologies, maybe we are enhancing them and adding to them and giving ourselves flexibility and options. I may look at my notes as we go. So just a quick introduction, and thank you to Cheryl, wherever she's gone now. Yes, my name is Stuart. Stuart or Stu is just the abbreviation. And I am the Managing Director of HRDNZ with a Moodle partner in New Zealand since 2006. And that used to make me feel so excited when I said that. And now it just makes me feel a lot older. My initial training is actually as a graphic designer, but I'm a qualified teacher. I did an MBA in international business. I classify myself as a technologist. I can build a server. So I have this very strange skill set that comes together in the world of Moodle really quite nicely as a designer, as a businessman, as a teacher. And I would love to say that was by design. It wasn't. I just fell through my career taking opportunities as they came. If they looked interesting, I would get involved. As Cheryl said, I've been the Moodle Certification Manager for 10 years, set up the original certification scheme, which certifies teachers officially in terms of their Moodle skills. I also do a few other things with Moodle, like running the business users forum and the database forum, things like that. I'm also a plugins guardian, which just means I'm one of the people that looks at all the plugins that are submitted for Moodle, and I look at whether the documentation is correct, whether it does what it says it does, whether it's secure, so on and so forth. But although we are a commercial company, I like to do lots of things that are free and available for everyone to use. So we have a podcast, which you can listen to on iTunes or SoundCloud, and we have the e-learning world site, which is basically our company blog, but we try and share as much as we can in all sorts of areas. As Cheryl said, I feel like one of the luckiest people in the world because I've been able to present at more than 30 Moodle conferences worldwide. from Oman and Romania through there. And I have to say, I've battled through traffic in some of the major cities of the world, but nothing like Manila. I am amazed we only started half an hour late. In Auckland, in New Zealand, we have 3.5 million people in total, 3.5 million. And 1 million of those live in Auckland, okay? And in Auckland, they say, oh, the traffic is terrible. I want to bring everyone from Auckland to see Manila. So I'm very lucky to get to these different cities and different communities. And the most interesting part for me is not standing up here talking at people. It's actually listening to you during coffee, listening to the presenters, learning from you, because everything that you tell me and share with me during these 2 days, that's all going to go back into Moodle. All those comments and questions and knowledge, that's all going to feed back in, right? We're all participants here today. I'm going to teach you some Greek, Latin. Nanos gigantum humerus incidentes. Anyone else speak Latin? No. From Europe, you see. I'm from England originally, so I moved to New Zealand in 2000. This is a saying, a quote, which means standing on the shoulders of giants. Do you have maybe something similar, a similar saying? Most countries will have something similar. In English, its most famous use is by Sir Isaac Newton, who said, "If I have seen further, it is because I am standing on the shoulder of giants." And all that really means is, no matter what we do, we're only able to do what we do because someone previously laid those foundations, right? So we all, whoever we are, in whatever discipline, in whatever vocation, we are always building on the work of previous people. And we should always remember that. We should never get carried away with our own greatness. We owe a great deal of gratitude to everyone before. So I'm going to play a guessing game here. I like to get the audience involved a little bit, okay? I know you're all shy, okay? Does anyone recognize this gentleman? Put your hand up if you do. Amazing. This is Richard Stallman. He's an American programmer and activist for free software. Okay. Now, what Richard Stallman did is he established the Free Software Foundation, FSF, and he created the General Public License, the GPL license. Okay. To explain why this is so important, you all understand the word copyright and what this means. We copyright our intellectual property. We copyright our music. We copyright our books. Okay. The general public license says, I am, as the owner of this property, giving you the right to change it, to use it in any way you want. I am basically giving away my rights to the next person, as long as you also give those rights to everyone else. Okay? This is a fundamental change in how we think about the ownership of data, of property, of software, in Richard's case. Who knows this person? A few more? Yeah, a few more people? Tim Berners-Lee. He is a professor of computer science at Oxford University at the moment in the UK. This is the person who invented the internet. Yeah? We can actually trace back to a point in time where one person created the internet, right? And you're all using this technology today on your phones and your browsers. He invented the hypertext transfer protocol. And when you go to a website and you type HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol. Without his invention of a way to transfer hypertext, the internet or the web would not exist. The web specifically. Okay, still guessing. Anyone know this gentleman? Yeah, a few nodding heads. The techies in the room I can see nodding. Okay. This is Linus Torvalds. He's a Finnish gentleman, and he invented Linux, basically, or Linux is probably the more correct term, because it's named after him, Linux. Now, you're all using computers, I can see today. You've all got your laptops. Most of you will probably be using Microsoft Windows. Some of you will be using Apple Mac OS. Linux is an operating system, just like those, apart from it's free. Linux is released using the GPL license. So you can download Linux for free, you can install it on a computer, and you can use it as a free operating system. I have friends in Greece who, their economy, you may know, Greece economy is very, very bad. No one can afford to pay for Windows, right? So half the country are using Linux because it's free. And finally, I'm hoping more people recognize this gentleman. Yeah. He's not that good looking. You'll see this tomorrow. It's a very good photograph. Martin, of course, who is the CEO, the owner of Moodle, lives in Perth in Australia, although I believe he's moving to Europe later this year, maybe next year. So Martin created Moodle, and as Cheryl said, Moodle stands for Modular Object-Oriented Dynamic Learning Environment. When he first created it, and you can ask him, it actually stood for Martin's Object-Oriented Dynamic Learning Environment. But he is such a nice person, he just couldn't have his name in the title, so he changed it to Modular. And Martin grew up for part of his childhood in Western Australia, which is a very sparsely populated, remote part of Australia. And he was educated partly over the radio and partly through distance education, where an aeroplane would fly over and drop his study books for him to pick up. Okay? So if you want to talk to someone who has understood distance education for a long, long time, Martin's a good person. Okay. So Moodle's official mission statement, if you wanted to try and condense it to the minimum possible, is empowering educators to improve our world. Yeah. If you wanted a kind of deeper definition, I'm not going to read that. But basically, we're saying that Moodle really is trying to keep a truly idealistic view of what open source software can do. So its ulterior motive is just to make the world a better place. It's just to make education more accessible, cheaper, etc. So I'm just going to flick through a couple of points here. It was around 2000 when the first Moodle site was launched, Martin's own site. 2001. The bug tracker was set up in 2002, so people could start reporting problems and errors that could be fixed. The first ever Moodle Moot, 2004 in England. In 2005, we got a dedicated headquarters. And it was only 2007, it was quite a short time, Moodle started to be seen as one of the leading learning management systems of the world and started to actually win awards in just 7 years, which is pretty amazing for an open source technology. We wouldn't be surprised if this was Microsoft or Google, right? These are huge companies, but this was a tiny little open source project from Perth. Perth is the most remote city in the world. So in 2004, there were 1,000 users. By 2008, 500,000 users. And now we've got well over 1 million users on the Moodle.org site. We had the Moodle Mobile App released in 2013. 2015, we saw the Moodle Cloud, which enables anyone to start a Moodle site for free just by clicking a few buttons. You can upgrade those later, obviously. And as we said, by last year, over 100 million registered users on Moodle sites. But I thought it would be interesting to see who we are here today. Right. So this is taken off the website. Most of you are from the Philippines, unsurprisingly. Nice to see one person from New Zealand. That's good. But who are we in terms of our disciplines? Well, we have a lot of professors, educators, trainers, teachers, instructors. That's what I would hope to see at a Moodle conference, people who use this technology for education. Right? But we also have quite a few IT, stroke technology, stroke administration kind of people here as well. That's good. And then we have a few other subcategories. I'm sorry if I've just called you a subcategory, but we have a... And then in terms of industry, what's that? 3/4 from academic institutions, largely universities. And that is what we would expect to see at the first Moodle Moot in any specific country. But it isn't necessarily who your Moodle users are in this country long term. And that's because in each country, the early adopters are usually the universities. And why is that? It's because we have people interested in open source. We have education as our core mission, as our core business. We probably have a reasonable IT department that understand Linux and open source and servers. So we'll tend to find that universities are the first organizations to adopt Moodle in any country. But after that, we get a second wave a couple of years later. Often that is schools. So if the government says we want everyone to use a learning management system, suddenly there's a huge increase in school teachers using Moodle. And that actually happened in New Zealand to us. The government of New Zealand said within 2 years, every school needs to have a learning management system. And that really pushed that school sector. And then after that, the later groups that will come through will be government departments, will be not-for-profit organizations and charities, and they're tending to use Moodle because it's free, it doesn't cost them anything. And then finally, we'll tend to see commercial companies using Moodle internally for staff training. Okay. So we have the early adopters here today in the majority, but I will tell you in 2, 3, 4 years' time, the audience of this Moodle Moot will be different, which is interesting. If we look at the Moodle Statistics, wow, I think that's slightly out of date now. Around 100,000 sites. Look at some of those numbers. The number of forum posts on Moodle sites, 260 million. The number of quiz questions, wow, 800 million. These statistics are just gathered from Moodle sites, all anonymous. Administrators can say, we want to submit some of this basic data so that Moodle HQ can see how the sites are being used. In terms of countries, United States is the biggest single user of Moodle. Interestingly, if we look at this list, there are a lot of Spanish-speaking, Spanish/Portuguese-speaking countries. Spain, Mexico, Colombia. The Spanish-speaking Moodle community is hugely enthusiastic and very vibrant. And that was something that I didn't realize until I went to Spain for some Moodle conferences. And of course, they have a slight barrier, which is that most of them speak Spanish and maybe quite low-level English. So it's difficult for them to always interact with the main Moodle community. But I always like to flag that up, that there's this amazingly enthusiastic Spanish-speaking community of Moodle developers and Moodle enthusiasts. If we look at the number of installs, though, by user, we might be forgiven for thinking that around the world, Moodle is only used in large organizations. That's not actually true. The vast majority of Moodle sites are actually just a couple of thousand people. So not a university with 20, 30,000, but schools, colleges, smaller kind of educational establishments. They are by far the largest group, and obviously with universities at the end there. If we look at what versions people are using of Moodle, and I know this is a little bit technical, and some of you will not even know what version of Moodle you use, right? And you don't need to. It's kind of like driving a car. You don't need to understand how spark plugs work to drive well. Yeah, you need different skills. So 3.4 is the current version of Moodle, and we can see that almost half the Moodle sites in the world are on 3.4. But if we look at what was installed in just the last 3 months, then we can see that well over, what are we talking, maybe 75% of sites are on the latest version of Moodle. And that's important because Moodle is updated every 6 months. So what happens with Moodle is we have a release cycle every 6 months. In May and December, I think, we have a new version of Moodle, and that has new features. We also have smaller releases every 2 months, but there's no new features there. We are just basically fixing any small bugs, making changes. Maybe there was a spelling mistake in a piece of text. You know, we're making improvements, but nothing new. But every 6 months, lots of new features. So this open source learning management system, on the left-hand side here, we've got Moodle. So we have the Moodle core, which is what we can download from Moodle.org. We have the plugins and modules, which can be used to extend Moodle. And then we have the ideas of course design, teachers, and also users contributing to Moodle. People actually putting in new ideas. And Moodle is never going to do everything. So one of the key fundamental parts here is that it enables us to interface with other systems easily. I say easily. One would have to be a programmer or a developer to do this a lot of the time, but Moodle is open and allows and indeed encourages people to integrate Moodle with other systems. So, I've already said that. The core tools that you get, though, in Moodle are pretty good. We have all our resources, and I'm going to take some audience participation here. Okay, we have our resources, which are our page and our label, URLs, links to websites. We have the concepts of managing users, so we can import data, we can reset courses, we can duplicate content, we can manage our course. And then we have activities, the things that people do. Okay? Now I'm going to get you to put your hand up if you are a teacher that's using assignments in Moodle. Okay, quite a few. Using forums in Moodle. Okay. Using quizzes in Moodle. Okay, so quizzes, just slightly more than the others. And that isn't unusual because the Moodle quiz engine, the quiz module, is as good as any quiz system that you can go out and buy. It's absolutely amazing. And thinking back to our saying earlier about standing on the shoulders of giants, the Moodle quiz engine is maintained by a gentleman called Tim Hunt, who works at the Open University in the UK. And the Open University in the UK is the biggest distance educator in the world. And Moodle is very fortunate because the work that goes into the Open University quiz system flows through into Moodle. So it's fantastic. And then there's all the other things in Moodle. There's all those other aspects. There's the grade book where you can monitor and assess people. There are roles and permissions and capabilities where we can change what people can and cannot do. We have badges. Are we aware of open badges here? Nods, yeah, a few nods. Okay. We have new projects like the Analytics project, which will actually help teachers look at a Moodle site and a Moodle course and understand, based on AI, who is likely to fail in the future based on their access patterns so far. Now that's an amazing use of technology, but still what we're doing is bringing it back to education. Can we help the teacher understand who is at risk of not being able to complete a course successfully? And we have all these external systems that Moodle can connect to. So Moodle is never going to have a video conference module. It's not going to happen. Why not? Because there are much better video conference systems already available. So the focus for Moodle is to make it easy to integrate with those video conference systems, whether that's Big Blue Button, and I know that Fred is talking tomorrow about Big Blue Button, whether it's a payment system, whether it's a portfolio system, doesn't matter. Moodle always tries to make it as easy as possible to link with other systems. And that is very different from what you get with proprietary closed source learning management systems. They can do this for you, but they're going to want to be paid quite a lot of money probably. And they're going to take money from you to do that. And then they're going to take money from you to do that because they're a commercial company. With Moodle, if anyone can create a plugin to a video conference system and then release that on Moodle.org, the whole world gets it for free. Fantastic. How can you host Moodle? One of the most common questions we get asked, in fact. There are lots of different ways to host Moodle. So it's an application, which means it's a program, but instead of sitting on your computer, it sits on a server so that everyone can access it 24/7. If you're a university, you quite probably host Moodle internally yourself because you have an IT infrastructure, you have servers, you have staff who understand these things. If you're not a university, you may look to external hosting, and there are some very cheap web hosting options these days around the world. You do have a lack of control there. You're never really sure what hardware your virtualized system is running on, or what version of PHP you can actually upgrade to, and so on and so forth. Other options for hosting, the Moodle Cloud. Launched a couple of years ago, the Moodle Cloud allows anyone in the world to create a login and to have a small, completely free Moodle site, which is maintained by Moodle HQ. And there are some limits on that. I think it's 50 users or 100 users and 5 gig of disk space, and you can't add plugins. So it's a basic provision. It's enough, though, for many teachers around the world to create their first Moodle site, dip their toes into the water of what they can do with their students and their learners. And then it's possible for you to go to a Moodle partner and say, look, we're growing beyond this, and we need something a bit better. So on Moodle.com, you can search for the Moodle partners in your country, and there are, I think there are about 75 Moodle partners around the world now. In New Zealand, we have 2, ourselves and a wonderful, wonderful organization called Catalyst, and they tend to do a lot of work with the government. But if you were searching not for New Zealand, if you were searching for the Philippines, then our friend Cheryl would appear there, and you can click on that link to go to their website. So it should be easy, wherever you are on the world, to find your best local support option. Now, I wonder which Moodle sites you're actually aware of. Does everyone know Moodle.org? Yeah? Okay. So this is, of course, the main community site. This is where the whole world comes together to talk about Moodle. And there's forums in there for different languages. There's forums for different elements within Moodle, like assignments or forums or the database. All sorts of forums where, for many, many years, people have discussed and tried to improve Moodle and share their practice. Yeah, really fascinating discussions in there. And if you haven't got a login there and you're a Moodle user, I'm going to strongly suggest that you make the effort to create a login, even if you only start by reading the discussions and you're a little bit shy to post a question or to post an idea. That's okay. That will come later. Yeah. But this is somewhere where you can contribute right now. We have Moodle Docs. So if you're using Moodle and you need to look something up, you've forgotten how to do something, or there's something new that you'd like to do, Moodle Docs is the place to go. And again, this is a wiki, just like Wikipedia, Wiki Educator. Any of you can contribute to the documentation. If you find a page that isn't written very clearly, you can log into that and you can reword it, submit it, it gets approved, and now everyone has a better documentation page. Again, this is a way you can contribute right now. We have the Moodle main sort of phrase there again, empowering educators to improve our world. We have the Moodle Tracker, which is where you can submit either bug fixes, so maybe you find a bug in Moodle, like something that doesn't work right, you can actually report that here, and then the developers of Moodle will see that and be able to prioritize it and fix it. Yeah. User-driven. You can also use the tracker to submit a feature request. So if you're using quizzes very heavily and you think there's a feature that's missing or that would be advantageous, you can submit that as a feature request. The developers will look at it and say, that's a really good idea. We can put that into Moodle, and bang, the whole world then suddenly has your improvement. And, I do that all the time. Lots of us do. So this was something that I was doing one day, and I was using notifications in Moodle, and I realized that although a teacher had been removed from a course, they were still getting notifications, which is obviously wrong. So I reported that, and then who was it who fixed it? Probably Andrew or Mark, far smarter than I am. I'm not a developer. These guys are clever. So Andrew or Mark would have read that, had a conversation with me, fixed it, and then everyone else in the world has that fix when they update Moodle. Brilliant. We do have something called Moodle Dotnet. This isn't something I'm going to talk about today, because I think Martin's going to probably want to talk about this tomorrow. But basically, we have all these different elements of Moodle now. We have the Moodle Cloud, we have the Moodle Mobile App, we have the desktop app, we have Moodle Moots, we have Moodle Partners. And I think the idea is that Moodle.net is going to become a kind of central place where you can connect to everything else, okay? To try and simplify this whole range of services and aspects of Moodle now. You can join the Moodle User Association. And I know that someone's going to be talking about this afternoon, maybe, or tomorrow. Has anyone heard of the Moodle User Association? Oh, okay. Moodle's still quite new in the Philippines, obviously. But the Moodle User Association allows any individual to join this organization and then to be able to vote on new features. So you're not just suggesting ideas, you're not just discussing ideas. Your vote, your personal vote, may mean that a new piece of functionality is added to Moodle on the next release. Yeah? This isn't a project that's run by developers in a back room. Every single person in this room can become a part of the Moodle User Association and influence the future of Moodle. Even if you're not a developer, you're not a technologist, it doesn't matter. You're a teacher, probably, and that's the most important group of people here. So I would suggest that if you're not aware of the Moodle User Association, that you go to the presentation that's within this moot, find out more, and maybe get involved. We have Moodle Plugins. As we said, Moodle, the M is for modular, which means that we can bolt all these different new features into Moodle. And there are lots of plugins available for download. There are, what are there? 1,340 plugins available for Moodle. Some of those will be for old versions, to be fair. But yeah, hundreds and hundreds of ways to expand what your Moodle site is capable of. All for free, most for free. And there are all types of plugins. Plugins for new activities. Plugins for playing media in a smarter way. New course formats. The ability to import and export grading data. These are all plugins that your administrator can add to your Moodle site. And only an administrator can do this. But it's basically, the analogy is, you know in your web browser, you can install a plugin to read a PDF or a plugin to play an MP4 or whatever. It's the same methodology. It's just a plugin and add-in to the main Moodle site. If there are any developers here, don't be afraid to try and get involved with Moodle in the development area. Moodle is always looking for developers with new ideas and skills and ability to contribute. It's not just about teachers. If you are a developer, or you'd like to be a developer, then you probably need some technical skills around HTML and PHP and JavaScript. There are some courses available in the world that will help you get up to speed with specifically Moodle development, because you may be a developer in other areas, but of course Moodle is a very specific and sophisticated system. So there's one of our courses. We run courses 8 weeks long to help developers get up to speed with Moodle development. The mobile app. How many people are using the mobile app? Anyone? No one? A few? The most amazing thing about the Moodle mobile app, and I have it on my phone, is that I can go to a course, I can download the content to my device, I can go offline. Right? In New Zealand, when I drive half a mile, I have no internet anymore. Right? Lots of sheep, no internet. But I can stop in the country where there is no internet. I can start my course. I can take a quiz, save it, log out. When I come back to the city or my house, I switch my phone on, connect to that Moodle site, and those quiz results are synchronized back to the main Moodle site. Yeah? The Moodle mobile app gives you an ability to take your Moodle course anywhere. And that's for free. You just go to the Apple Store or the Android Store or the Microsoft Store. You download it and you connect it to your Moodle site. Free. We also have the Moodle Desktop, which is an app for your computer. And basically, it's very similar to the Moodle Mobile App for the smartphones, but it runs on your desktop computer. Very similar. Again, completely free, available from your favorite app store. I just want to mention one of my pet subjects, which is training. The technology behind Moodle is easy. And I say that as a technologist, right? But any technologist in the room. The technology is easy. It's a server, probably with Apache, probably with MySQL and PHP. This is an environment that many of us have worked with for many years. It's stable, robust, reliable, well documented. It's brilliant, right? The technology of Moodle is not hard. Where Moodle falls down, or where Moodle does not reach its true potential, is in a couple of areas, but probably the most significant one is the lack of training that organizations give their staff. There is almost this assumption that if we launch a new IT system within our university, teachers are somehow magically going to understand how to use that. And yes, there will be some people who have the time and the dedication to spend upskilling themselves, going through this big learning curve with their learners. But for most of us, we're already pretty busy. Now, Martin would say that 80% of teachers use about 20% of Moodle. I would say that 80% of those teachers use Moodle quite poorly. They don't actually use it very well. But it's not their fault. Yeah? There's time, support. This is the biggest single factor that affects how well your Moodle site will work in your university or your company or your college. Doesn't matter. If we don't make the effort to train the users, we will get poor results. And that is just the reality. And anyone here from the training department or the HR department, please take that on board. I can show you, I can take you to sites and installations right now. I can show you the difference between a site that trained the staff and a site that didn't. And the site that didn't probably spent 10 times as much on the technology. Yeah, but they're still far worse position than the organization which trained their staff how to use this. Now, the future of Moodle, Martin will have a lot more ideas tomorrow. What I've tried to do today is look at how we got here, how we all got here today. Yeah? Martin will continue on tomorrow. But it is important to remember that general concept and philosophy behind Moodle. It's an open platform. It's open. The GPL license says you can download it, you can change it, you can even provide it to other people as long as it's all for free. You can use it now from any device, computer, tablet, mobile phone. I did try. I can get notifications on my watch from forum posts. So if I have a particular forum that I'm trying to monitor, I've got my watch linked to my phone, and if there's a new post in a forum, I get a notification on my phone, on my watch. That's cool. We can extend Moodle with plugins. So although we have a basic Moodle code that we download and install, we can also expand that in very different ways. The types of plugins a university will use will be quite different from the plugins that a school uses or the plugins that a commercial company wants to use. But you have the freedom to change Moodle to how you need it to work. Ultimately, this is all about supporting educators and teachers and supporting learning, right? Never take your eye off the fact that this is all about education, teaching, learning. It's just a tool, it's just a technology. It has some really amazing features, But if you're not using this in a way that supports learning, you're probably not using it the right way. Right? It should all be tied back to your learners. It provides a very capable tool set to start with. The quizzes, the forums, the grade books. If you are using Moodle now and you haven't tried a survey or a chat or a wiki, I would encourage you to try and find out more about those tools during these 2 days. You may be able to go to a session which shows you a little bit more about how those things work, right? Use these 2 days to absorb new information, to challenge the way you already do things right now, and to maybe think about trying new ideas and new methodologies and new options in the future. Martin will talk about learning research tomorrow, I think. But always, always remember, you are part of this community, right? Moodle is not sitting here as a commercial provider selling you a product and making money, right? It is about releasing an open source educational system and wanting and needing your input, whether that's as a teacher on Moodle.org or a developer, whatever. Get involved, give the feedback, be part of the discussion. Whatever you do next week may be part of Moodle next year, quite literally. So these are my 2 daughters. This is Emily, age 4, and Olivia, age 2. And this is Olivia's 2nd birthday a couple of months ago. And I guess I'm leaving you with this statement, is that I have these 2 young, beautiful daughters, right? And not only do I want them to live in a world where women have the same opportunities as men, right? Not only do I want that, that's a given these days, surely, okay? But I want my daughters to live in a world where they've got the freedom to learn whatever they want, hopefully whenever they want, yeah? I remember as a child being able to go into a library, and find a book on any subject and open it up and read it. One of the great sadnesses of my life right now is seeing countries where libraries are being devalued and closed because there isn't enough money from the government to maintain it. That's terrible. Yeah? Not everyone has access to the internet and a computer yet. Right? Libraries were one of the great, I mean, how far back do they go? Greece in 4000 BC. This is where we learned things for free. Yeah? This is what Moodle can be. So I want my daughters to live in that world where they can learn anything they want, whenever they want, because I know it's the gateway to their future. I know that learning and education is going to be what enables them to be healthy, productive, well-adjusted, enthusiastic, loving. You know, it's going to make them into the types of people we want running the world, right? So for me, education, learning, it's the force that changes the world for the better. And Moodle is part of the software that can support that aim. Salamat? This one.
Thank you so much, Stuart. Please remain on stage. And ladies and gentlemen, another big hand for Stuart and for his 2 lovely daughters, of course. At this stage, ladies and gentlemen, may we call our session chair for the conference from the UP Open University to join Stuart on stage. May we call Dr. Alexander Sandy Flor.
Stuart has this for his props. I have this. Okay. Now, we have the first question here. Question for the audience. Quite an interesting question, since you gave a lot of emphasis on the open source feature of Moodle. Are there any functionalities, Stuart, found in Blackboard or WebCities that are absent in Moodle's latest version?
So thank you for that question. I am not an expert user in Blackboard or WebCT. I used Blackboard 10 years ago to maybe 7 years ago, and WebCT possibly about the same period. I really didn't like Blackboard or WebCT. I found their approach to the fundamental design of what learning is about to be quite different to Moodle's. And so rather than pick on those products, there are lots of ways to start a learning management system. One of them is to think that it's about data and repositories and users and how so it's basically a database of information that we then try and put into an interface that works for learning, right? But Moodle has always come from a very different perspective in terms of its architecture, and it's always said, what do we want people to learn, and therefore, how do we program the system to become that? So we have, on the one hand, learning management systems that are data-driven, and learning management systems that are learning-driven. And Moodle is very definitely in the learning-driven camp.
Okay, so the biggest difference is that Moodle is learning-driven, yes, and the distinction actually is that...
more data-driven.
Oh, data-driven, right. Okay, here's another question, Stuart. As an established Moodle certified solutions provider in New Zealand, among the companies that you cater to, what do you find to be the common denominator among your client schools or companies who get to make the most use of Moodle and keep using it for years?
Very good question. So our client base is quite varied. So I would say maybe 20% universities, 20% schools, 20% not-for-profit organizations and charities, and then the rest would be commercial organizations. So we have, as an example, the New Zealand Blood Service, which is the blood donation for blood donations and blood banks. And they use Moodle really well, not just for internal staff training, but they also are able to provide learning to the ambulance drivers. And ambulance drivers spend a lot of time sitting in an ambulance just waiting for something to happen. Right? Hopefully it doesn't happen. So ambulance drivers and ambulance staff are out on location, often waiting maybe for a few hours in a day before anything happens. That's a great time to deliver education to these people. And that organization has taken that step and understands they can utilize that time really productively by helping the ambulance staff go through their new certifications and their training in new equipment and new methods of resuscitation or whatever it is. So I think there are probably two defining factors. One of them I've already spoken about, which is training. The organizations that put the effort into upskilling the people using Moodle are the ones that will make the most benefit from it. But also the people who think a bit more creatively. The people who don't think all we want to do in our course is upload our assignment, upload our PDFs, upload our PowerPoint, and then get people to read that. That's not e-learning. That's a repository, right? Where we find people using Moodle really effectively is where discussions are happening in forums, where we're asking a group of students to lead the discussion in a forum, yeah, so that others can contribute. And where we're using things like our mobile phone. I am getting notifications right now from Moodle sites I'm involved with, and I can chat real time in the Moodle course right now using this device within the Moodle chat function in the Moodle Mobile App. You know? So it's about being creative, but also looking for those opportunities, not being scared to have a go and to say to your students, look, I'm going to try something new here. Yeah, let's try it. I'm not going to grade you on this. It's the first time I've done it. Let's try it. Get your feedback. How does it work for you as a learner? Yeah, actually get their feedback.
Okay. Most of your clients are, what, universities or training institutions, private?
Most of them, I would say 50% are education as core. So they are organizations that provide education. Universities, schools, private training enterprises. And then the other 50% are people who are organizations that are using Moodle as part of what their organization does. So a new site that we've just worked on is the Human Rights Commission. So the Human Rights Commission in New Zealand have a Moodle site, which is used. Anyone in New Zealand can register on this site and go through the 7 modules on the Human Rights Commission, treaty, and so on in New Zealand, and that's made available for free by the Human Rights Commission now.
Yeah, interesting. Perhaps the Philippines Human Rights Commission would also need the services of Moodle. Okay, this is our last question, Stuart, for your session. What can you advise to schools who are beginning to use Moodle? What is your advice to schools?
Number one, go to a Moodle Moot. There's a serious point there, serious point. Don't try and do it on your own, right? You have lots of peers here who have, if you're a new school, if you're new to Moodle, lots of people here have been through the learning curves that you are going through now. So talk to them. Find out who else in your region is using Moodle. Pick up the phone, go and visit them. Take them for lunch, right? And say, okay, when you implemented Moodle, what went well, what didn't go well, right? Learn from other people. We're all supposed to be good at learning here, right? So I will suck information out of every single one of you whenever I get the chance, because that's how we learn, right? So yeah, if you're new, connect with others, connect with your Moodle partner. If you're not sure about the types of technologies and so on, you know, go and talk to someone who has helped others through the same process. And then get involved on Moodle.org. Maybe join the user group. Just become more part of that Moodle world, and you will start to absorb more and more knowledge and build from there.
Okay, Stuart, don't try to do it on your own. Okay, join the community and invest in training, right? This is one of the messages. Invest in training. Thank you very much, Stuart. Ladies and gentlemen, the CEO or the Managing Director of HRD-NZ, Stuart Mealor. A round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for reinforcing our commitment to this learning management system.